Charlie Kirk's death has exploded into something far bigger than a tragedy. It has become an all-out digital war. And at the very center of this chaos stands the one person everyone expected to be shattered beyond recognition, his wife, Erica. Instead of pity, she is facing whispers that chill the spine. People are asking, could she be more than a grieving widow? Could she be part of the storm itself? The second these rumors surfaced, the internet erupted. Twitter feeds lit up like wildfire, Instagram reels turned into battlegrounds, and hashtags like #InsideJob and #JusticeForCharlie trended within hours. And then, like gasoline on an open flame, Candace Owens stepped in. Her reaction was not subtle. It was nuclear. But before we dive into Candace's scorched earth comments, let us rewind to the night everything turned lethal. This was no ordinary shooting. Charlie Kirk was gunned down during a packed university event, a place that was supposed to symbolize ideas, not bloodshed. Thousands of witnesses. Chaos so thick you could feel it in the air. The official story was quick and clean: a 22-year-old man named Tyler Robinson allegedly fired from a rooftop. But here is where the so-called facts start to splinter. The police affidavit reads like something from a spy thriller. Whoever fired that weapon knew everything: Charlie's speaking schedule, the hidden layout of the tent, even the precise exit door he was supposed to take. That is not random guesswork. That is insider data. Someone fed him those details. And when you watch the harrowing footage, which millions have now dissected frame by frame, you notice something else. Tyler's aim was terrifyingly perfect. No tremor. No hesitation. No chaos in his movements. It was as if he had trained for this exact moment. And then comes the twist that still gives investigators nightmares. Tyler Robinson was not caught through brilliant detective work. He was caught because his own father turned him in. Think about that. Weeks, maybe months of planning. Chilling accuracy. And finally a capture that only happened because of a family betrayal. Nothing about this screams random act. It screams precision and payment. Naturally, detectives turned their gaze toward the one person who had constant, unrestricted access to Charlie Kirk's life, his wife, Erica. Suddenly every innocent detail of their marriage looked darker. Texts were pulled. Bank records examined. And when a small leak from inside the investigation hinted that Erica had been in unusual contact with someone tied to the event, social media exploded again. Reddit threads filled with theories of betrayal. TikTok sleuths pointed to old interviews where Charlie and Erica exchanged tense looks. It felt like a modern-day whodunit playing out live, with millions of amateur detectives ready to pounce. Now layer in Candace Owens, Charlie's longtime ally and firebrand commentator. The moment she caught wind of the theory, she did not merely post a statement. She detonated. Livestream after livestream, Candace unleashed fury, accusing hidden players of plotting a perfect public execution and hinting that the killer might have been sitting at the family dinner table all along. Her words were pure fire. And with each broadcast, the story warped from tragic shooting into a nationwide betrayal saga. As the dust refuses to settle, the question is no longer just who pulled the trigger. The question haunting every feed and headline is who handed him the map. Was the ultimate betrayal closer than anyone dared to imagine? So close that Charlie Kirk might have welcomed it home every night? When a married person is found unalived, every seasoned investigator knows where the first spotlight lands: the spouse. It is practically an unwritten rule in homicide cases. That does not mean the spouse pulled the trigger, but it does mean every glance, every alibi, every silence becomes evidence. And in this case, those quiet suspicions surrounding Erica did not stay quiet for long. They spread like smoke in a locked room, transforming her overnight from a devastated widow into a possible co-conspirator. That was the exact moment when Candace Owens entered the battlefield. Watching the narrative twist in real time, she said out loud what millions of watchers were still too hesitant to tweet. Candace did not hint. She declared. She almost dared the world to contradict her. It was the kind of statement that feels like striking a match inside a room already drenched in gasoline fumes. In a single viral live stream, she dragged whispers from the dark corners of group chats and Reddit threads and hurled them into the glare of public debate. But Candace's fiery broadcast only hit as hard as it did because the ground was already cracking beneath Erica's carefully built public life. For years, Erica had not been a shadowy spouse in the background. She had crafted an immaculate online image, a curated feed of family dinners, matching holiday sweaters, and glowing speeches where she stood just behind Charlie, nodding in quiet agreement. To casual followers it looked wholesome. To devoted fans it looked perfect. But when those cracks began to appear, they did not just appear, they shattered the glass. Internet detectives dove in with surgical precision. Old live streams were replayed frame by frame. Deleted posts resurfaced from forgotten caches. Comment sections on decade-old videos became virtual crime scenes. Strangers dissected her every micro-expression, a fleeting smile during a serious question, a glance that seemed too cold, a nod that felt rehearsed. What once felt heartwarming now looked like foreshadowing. It was as if millions of people simultaneously realized they might have been watching a carefully scripted performance all along. Then came the silence. Erica, who once shared everything, what the children ate for lunch, which park they played in, vanished from her own feed. Her sudden absence became its own headline. Loyal followers left frantic comments under her last post. "Are you okay? Why no updates? Where is Erica?" The digital void pulsed with dread. And then, almost as if on cue, the silence broke. When the news of Charlie's death hit, Erica did not stumble. She did not fumble for words. She went live. Her hair was immaculate. Her voice never cracked. To a stunned audience, it looked less like a reaction and more like a launch. And it was not what she said that froze viewers, it was what she chose to leave unsaid. Erica spoke of Charlie's political devotion, his loyalty to the country, to President Trump, to Vice President J.D. Vance. She mentioned her children. She even gestured at continuing the mission. Yet she barely spoke of the man himself. No memories of private jokes. No small, intimate stories of love. Nothing that sounded like a wife breaking under grief. Instead, the live stream felt eerily like a press conference for a political cause, not a farewell to a husband. That calculated calm sent shockwaves through every corner of social media. Clips of the broadcast were replayed in endless loops with captions like, "cold as ice," and "rehearsed much." Reddit theories multiplied overnight. TikTok sleuths paired her words with ominous music and asked, "Who writes a eulogy before the body is cold?" Candace Owens' fire had started the blaze, but Erica's own composure kept feeding it. What began as a tragedy now looked, to millions watching on their phones, like something darker, an unfolding betrayal in real time. And with every replay, every freeze frame of Erica's unshaken eyes, the question burned hotter: was she grieving, or was she acting? Grief is supposed to be unpredictable. People collapse, go silent, or cling to routine just to stay upright. At first, many viewers gave Erica that benefit of the doubt. Maybe her icy composure was shock. Maybe pouring energy into Charlie's mission was her way of keeping him alive in spirit. Friends and strangers alike posted gentle reminders beneath her feed: everyone mourns differently. Give her space. For a brief moment, sympathy softened the online storm. But then came the post that ripped away every excuse. In a late-night update that exploded across timelines, Erica wrote, "You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. They should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just unleashed across this entire country and world." The language read less like sorrow and more like a cinematic declaration of war. It was not the voice of someone drowning in grief, it sounded like a manifesto. And with that, the whispers morphed into a roar. Who exactly was this mysterious "you" she was addressing? The alleged killer? The political forces Charlie opposed? Or someone even closer? Why did her tone sound like a rallying speech instead of a private cry for help? Within hours, screenshots of the post ricocheted across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Commentators dissected every phrase: "The cries of this widow will echo. You have no idea what you just unleashed." Influencers paused videos frame by frame, reading her words aloud over ominous music. The verdict from the internet was nearly unanimous: this was not grief, this was strategy. Speculation splintered like a spiderweb. Some theorists claimed she had known something was coming and that her strange silence before Charlie's death was part of careful preparation. Others accused her of using tragedy as a springboard to launch a new public identity, a figurehead ready to carry a fiery political torch. The darkest corners of Reddit pushed even more chilling theories, too twisted to repeat without sounding like fiction. But in the fevered logic of social media, if something feels off, the gap gets filled with shadows. Suddenly every old clip of Erica laughing at a rally, every outfit she had chosen, every pause in her speech became evidence. TikTok timelines turned into virtual war rooms. Slow-motion analyses of her expressions spread like digital wildfire. A sideways glance at a past dinner party? Proof of hidden resentment. A slightly delayed tear in an old video? Evidence of calculation. Every move she had ever made was reinterpreted as part of a larger scheme. Yet she was not without defenders. Supporters fought back fiercely, arguing that the world was punishing a strong woman for refusing to collapse. "She is not shady, she is a warrior," one viral comment declared. Others pointed out the double standard: when a widower channels pain into purpose, society calls him heroic; when a widow does the same, she is accused of manipulation. Instagram threads turned into running debates about grief, gender, and the right to grieve loudly or silently. By the end of that week, Erica's feed had transformed into a digital courtroom. Every word she spoke and every hour she stayed quiet became evidence for either the prosecution or the defense. What began as a tragic loss had spiraled into a public trial without walls, where the jury was the entire internet and the verdict shifted by the minute. The more Erica spoke, the sharper the split became across the country's screens. Her speeches were no longer soft reflections, they were rallying declarations. Again and again she repeated phrases like, "We will finish what he started," and "His mission lives through me." Yet, for all that thunder, she offered almost nothing about Charlie the man. No story of how they met. No gentle memory of private moments only a spouse would know. The intimacy of a real marriage, the small jokes, the quiet mornings, remained absent. For countless viewers, that silence roared louder than her most fiery words. To others, however, it was the tiny fractures in her steel mask that told the real story. In one late-night livestream a single tear streaked down her cheek before she straightened and continued as if nothing had happened. In another, her voice quivered for a brief second when a comment mentioned Charlie's name. Some saw these as unmistakable glimpses of raw grief, proof that she was still human beneath the armor. But critics claimed these were calculated slips, flashes of vulnerability rehearsed to keep sympathy alive. The debate ignited and fed on itself like a self-fueling fire. Soon mainstream outlets could not resist. Primetime talk shows and major newspapers began running nightly panels on what they called the Erica question. They invited body language specialists to read her posture like a crime scene, psychologists to speculate on trauma responses, and political strategists to decode every slogan she uttered. Was she transforming grief into genuine activism or orchestrating a slow, deliberate power grab? Was she the victim of unimaginable loss, the hidden architect of an unspeakable plan, or some unstable mix of both? No one could give a definitive answer, but nearly everyone felt compelled to try. By this point the story was no longer just about a woman in mourning. It had evolved into a cautionary tale about how narratives are forged in the age of infinite scrolling. Erica had stopped being merely a grieving widow, she had become a character, a living symbol. To some she was a heroine, carrying Charlie's torch. To others she was a villain, coldly taking center stage. And because she continued to lace her speeches with almost mythic imagery, cries of the widow as a battle cry, a force unleashed across the world, she only deepened the sense that she was stepping onto a grand stage, not retreating into private sorrow. Perhaps she never intended to look calculating. Perhaps, as some defenders insisted, she was simply trying to be strong and inspirational, and the theatrical words were her way of coping. Or perhaps this was the plan all along, to turn grief into a mantle of power. Whatever her motives, the effect was undeniable. A woman once seen as a quiet presence now stood at the very center of a national obsession. Her long silence before the tragedy, her sudden readiness after it, and the epic tone of her declarations became the cornerstones of an internet mystery that refused to fade. Every new post was ripped apart for hidden meaning. Supporters celebrated her as a martyr of public opinion. Detractors accused her of hiding ambition behind sorrow. And Erica, unfazed, kept speaking in that hypnotic voice, half mourning, half war cry. If she noticed that the world was turning her into a myth, she gave no sign of pulling back. In fact, she leaned forward. Each new livestream contained fresh sparks for the fire, more charged phrases, more open-ended warnings, more reasons for millions to keep watching. Whether by instinct or by design, she fulfilled the prophecy of her own viral words. She became a force unleashed, a widow whose cries truly did echo like a battle cry, a figure now larger than the man she had lost. And as her audience grew, one truth became clear: this story no longer belonged to private grief. It belonged to a restless nation and a global audience, mesmerized by the spectacle of a woman who turned tragedy into power. Then came the neighbors, ordinary people who suddenly became key witnesses. They stepped forward with stories of late-night shouting matches between Charlie and Erica, arguments about money that allegedly rattled the walls. Some even whispered about a multi-million-dollar dispute that no one outside the household had known about. In a heartbeat, the theory shifted. Maybe this was not only a political tragedy. Maybe it was about money. Was she covering financial tracks that could ruin her? The internet pounced, weaving every rumor into an even darker tapestry. Candace Owens, already famous for calling out fake conservatives and hidden alliances, seized on these revelations. To her, it was confirmation of a suspicion she had voiced from day one: the betrayal was not external, it was domestic. Candace made it clear she would not let anyone hide behind polite silence. When she finally dropped her own post, it hit like an emotional sledgehammer. It was raw and fearless, a blend of mourning and accusation. And she did not wait for prosecutors or official statements. She went directly to her millions of followers, reposting comments that hinted at a far more sinister reality. One viral line detonated across the internet: "If this man's own wife set him up, every single conservative who stayed silent should be ashamed." He was not betrayed by politics. He was betrayed by his pillow. Betrayed by his pillow. Those 4 words became an instant cultural echo. Screenshots flooded Twitter. TikTok edits dropped within minutes, pairing the phrase with ominous music and slow-motion footage of Erica's live streams. In a matter of hours, the hashtag betrayed by his pillow was everywhere. Yet Candace was not just throwing out firebombs. Her grief was real and visible. She posted a heartbreaking photo compilation of her and Charlie through the years, laughing, working, supporting each other. It was the one tribute that felt purely human, free of political slogans. Even some of Charlie's fiercest critics admitted they cried watching it. Fans could not help but notice, this was the kind of intimate, soul-deep remembrance that people had expected from his wife, but never received. And Candace kept going. She went live for half an hour, talking about Charlie the friend and the man behind the politics. Her eyes shimmered with tears, her voice broke mid-sentence, and she slammed the desk in anguish. Nothing about it felt scripted. It felt like someone refusing to accept the official story, someone determined to rip away every veil of secrecy. When the authorities finally announced an indictment against Tyler Robinson, 7 charges including aggravated murder with the death penalty on the table, many thought the case was finally closing. Not Candace. She immediately shared the indictment on her Instagram stories with a single cutting line, "This feels like part of the story, not the whole thing." That sentence alone reignited the fire. Comment sections erupted. Viewers posted theories late into the night, convinced that hidden truths were still buried beneath official documents. Candace's next live stream only stoked the blaze. Her voice cracked with anger, she pounded the desk hard enough for the microphone to rattle. You could feel it in the silence between her words, this was not performance. This was grief transforming into fury, a friend's heartbreak sharpening into a relentless demand for the full truth.